So, all right. Well, before we kick off, talk a little bit about heading to Richmond and where your team will kind of approach this weekend.
Well, the confidence level of the team is still where it needs to be. We made a pretty big, unfortunately, we made a big mistake going into Darlington. We had a lot of motivation and a lot of, I guess a lot of motivation to come out of the gate well. And we focused on a lot of things really well. But just kind of a product of it being Darlington, the first playoff race, feeling like we had really done a good job of improving our car. We did a good job of hitting on some really important details and aspects of our race. But unfortunately, because Randall and myself were kind of so busy and so focused on a number of things that we kind of just got away from the basics. I hate to say it, like just being on the same page about where we're going to be throughout the night and what adjustments we need to make, that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, I'm being very honest, we just, kind of went into that race. I mean, as it showed, we started off with the race with a really good car. We just didn't have that game plan or the approach that we normally are pretty good about staying on through our race path or race night. 500 miles is a long time at Darlington, a lot of sets of tires, a lot of opportunities to adjust. And we just, as much as it, in hindsight, right after the fact, it really seemed like a really doom and gloom moment, which it was, the tough one to swallow after having such a good car to start to finish where we did. But to kind of peel the layers of the onion back, it really was obvious what we missed and how we missed it isn't something that can't be corrected within 1 week's time. It's something that going into Richmond we can have 100% better. So that makes it pretty easy to get positive once again. I look at where we were in the fall here. I had a lot of learning to do over the course of this race last year. So we started in the hole and just I worked to get closer and closer to my teammate Austin Dillon, who had a good strong car here in the fall. And by the end of it, we were right where we needed to be pace wise. We just had given up too much to that point to really do anything good or really serious about it. So I like where we're at. I like where our car's at. It was a tough lesson to have at Darlington. We had a great opportunity there, didn't take full advantage of it. And I think it was a good humbling moment or a good painful experience to go through to start this thing off. Just a reminder that totally didn't take us out of the playoff running, if you will, to make the next round.
All right, and we're now going to go to questions, and to kick us off, we're going to go to Bob Pockers. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Tyler, going into the playoffs, we kept asking what it's like to be racing your teammate for the points. So I'm curious if there's any less angst now that you're not racing a teammate.
I don't know if it would have really changed much, Bob. Austin and I, whether both in the playoffs or not, work, both teams work really close together. Something I've said a lot, especially over the last month or two, as it's been asked more. The effort that we have combined works really good together. We have some differences in driving style, and well, that driving style really showed up in spring Richmond. We pretty much brought back exactly what he ran in the fall there. Yeah, it was a daytime race, but the way he drives his car and everything doesn't totally match up for me. So it was a good lesson to go through in that race in the spring. So we're kind of coming back to, what I like, some of the details that I like out of the car, but with some tweaks to try and make it better. But between us, no, I don't know if it would have really changed anything being in the playoffs or not. We're both going to push really hard. And I think we saw that at Darlington, a number of drivers that aren't in the playoffs. They never really have, from my vantage point, the drivers outside the playoffs never really laid over for the playoff drivers. Yeah, you give them a little bit of room, a little bit more space. You don't race them super hard, but no one really gives an inch or much more than an inch out there. Maybe the non-playoff drivers give that tiny inch, but everyone still knows how to race really hard within reason.
Thank
you. Mm-hmm.
All right. Our next question will come from Hank Kurtz. Go ahead, Hank.
Having trouble unmuting. My goodness, I've only done this 1,000 freaking times. Hey, Tyler. Obviously, winning is goal one when you go into any race, but in the playoffs, I would imagine staying in the top 12 is pretty important too, getting as high up in the standings as you can. But when you look at the 4 guys behind you, how imposing is that? I mean, you got Kyle Busch back there, Alex Bowman, who I think won 3 times this year. How imposing is that, and kind of where's your headspace on going forward?
I gotcha. Yeah, you know, we're all aware of where they're at. Those drivers are behind the cut line, but for us, you know, in our situation, I think it's much more important to look ahead at who's ahead of us, and focus forward. Those guys are for sure are capable of winning. We've seen you know, Alex win earlier this year at Richmond. Kyle's always been really, really good at Richmond. William, I mean, there's drivers in there that have good speed. So looking behind, while it could be beneficial a little bit, especially a place like Darlington, Richmond, and even Bristol, it's all about running your own race. And for us, it's just, you know, to win, you got to run up front all day. You can't drive through the field. You're not going to get a magic adjustment, if you will, get the car perfect and drive through the field on the last run of the race. You got to be up there all night long, working on it if it needs it, and maintaining that track position. So it
Tyler, can you hear us?
No, it's not luck. I disagree with you there. That was well executed day. They were really good on pit road. Denny, you know, only hit the wall a couple of times, made very minimal mistakes, and did a really good job of managing the track position that he had. It's not a matter of luck by any means. It's adding up all the little details and having that perfect race. Sometimes your perfect race means that you get an 8th or a 7th or a 5th. It doesn't always mean you get a first place finish, but when you're running and you have the speed to stay in the top 5, hitting all those extra little details right can be the difference between running 5th and 1st. So we haven't had a whole lot of top 5s this year, but we've been in the top 10 a lot. And, you know, and those top 10s have been with bumps in the road throughout the day. So we just keep focusing on the little things that I need to be better at. You know, even the stuff that got us like at Darlington last weekend, just paying attention to too many, or we were paying attention to a lot of things. We just, you know, got away from one of the most important parts, and that happens, and it didn't cost us too much. So.
All right, Chris.
For that last, you know, the cutoff, and then you know, as much as we tried to be aggressive at Darlington, you know, it was very obvious that we missed it. We were trying to recover, and the last thing we needed to do was be super aggressive while free falling and lose even more positions than we did.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and let's see, Chris, go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for joining us. Back in the spring at Richmond, you finished 20th, and afterwards you talked about being a little too tight for much of the race and then too loose in the final stage. So do you think finding and being able to stay on top of the balance will be easier in nighttime conditions going in this time?
I think so. You were talking about spring Richmond, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know if I think it could potentially, just whether it was the daytime race. I think it cooled off a little bit towards the end of the daytime race that we had there. So there is a little bit of a transition. I mean, it will certainly cool off as the night rolls in at Richmond as well. But I think how the track changes at night and how it may grip up, if you will, in combination with I guess rubber getting laid down and the track getting wore in, I think it kind of doesn't change and then entirely large amount. So we'll see. I'm not expecting the track change a lot. It should still change some, but you know, having what we went through last weekend was kind of a good lesson, a reminder. And so we have a game plan in place for what we're going to do throughout the race adjustment wise. We don't expect a lot though. We just hope that what we've changed, the little tweaks that we changed, are as expected, and the
has ran toward the front at Richmond in recent years. How much can you lean on him in a 3-team for help? Or as you alluded to, do you feel like you and the 8-team know what you're looking for this week?
Yeah, for sure. We had slight differences in the fall last year, but towards the end of the race, once I kind of got a feel for how I need to drive the car, we were able to run somewhat comparable lap times to Austin. We had ran 10th to 15th all day, and you know, when you come out after the last pit cycle to run to the race end, you know, and you're almost a lap behind the leader, it doesn't really matter how fast you are at that point. We were able to drive away from the eventual winner, Brad Keselowski, but the rest of the race wasn't clean enough, wasn't perfect enough. I was learning, having to it was a good thing to learn, but I didn't learn fast enough to be able to make more out of that race than we did. But certainly leaning on my teammate and what has been good for him there really got us a lot closer to where I needed to be at Richmond. And you know, our differences in driving styles will mean a little bit different in what we brought back, kind of like I talked about earlier. But he certainly was a huge help in me getting way closer than I've ever been to being competitive at Richmond. It's pretty crazy how much the mindset's changed for me there. But it's really nice to finally feel like the light bulb has went off, or the light bulb blew up, if you will, and it's like, oh wow, this is what I've been missing the whole time here. And it's nice to be closer to where we need to be now than we were a year ago this time.
Thank you.
All right, Tino, go ahead.
Hey, Tyler. You mentioned earlier that you're sort of disappointed with your team's Darlington execution. So now heading into Richmond, what specifically are you guys changing with that game plan, and how close are you sort of feeling that you are in a must-win scenario?
I certainly don't feel like we are in a must-win scenario. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. You know, there's a lot of details that are really important to have right going into a race, especially a race like Darlington, where the track is one of the most slick, unforgiving, you know, really wears the tires out. The pace changes a lot. So, you know, it's important to have the car good. It's important to, as a driver, have a good understanding of where you need to be, line, and a lot of these little details, pit road, green flag cycles being good there, which we weren't terrible like we have been in years past there. But so many things going on we're really focused on, just to make sure we had every last detail checked off, that we just kind of missed, you know, one of the more obvious, maybe redundant parts of our weekend in preparation, and just being on the same page about, you know, how we think the track's going to change, what adjustments we like in our car, what ones we need to stay away from. So just, I mean, it's very simple. Just it's like showing up to a football game and not like ever really putting together a game plan for the first 2 or 3 drives type of situation. So it happens. Like, again, we it showed the car was good when we got there. We were confident in what we brought, and we were right. We showed up with the right piece. It's just we were so caught up in a number of those things that really just kind of got away from some of the more easy, redundant, kind of repetitive motions that you have throughout the week that, you know, can get tiresome sometimes, right? And we just, you know, by trying to cover all the bases and make sure every little detail was right with this length of a race and how much we both like Darlington and feel like we have good speed there, we just you know, missed it. As I missed that my background's completely inverted. I missed that too. I just noticed.
Good news, it looks good on our end. So I think it's just that way on your side.
It's not backwards for you?
No, it looks well it looks perfect for us actually. So
oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
That's good.
All right. Our next question will come from Nathan Solomon. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah, hey Tyler, thanks for your time today. Is the way that you view the point situation any different from the way you viewed it like in the last race of the regular season based on your the circumstances and your points position?
Oh no, not at all. As we saw with Darlington, so much can happen. The pressure's not just us, it's on everybody. Even cars that are 36 points to the good. That is a more comfortable spot to be in than where we are. But now a different kind of pressure's on. The pressure of not screwing it up is upon you, and if you can it's very easy to let that get to you more so than being in the hole. Again, I'm making another sports reference. Like how many I've seen it. You see it so many times, and more so in football. The team has a huge lead, and they'll start playing really safe on defense. The next thing you know, they just keep scoring and they catch up, and now they're in trouble, right? So wherever you're at, I feel like it's just important to have the same mindset, whether you're in the hole, whether you're plus 30, minus 30. The same things need to happen. It's just about running a clean race and getting the most out of your day. You don't. I feel like, especially without practice, throwing darts at a board without even looking at it, hoping you're going to get a bullseye. It's not really gonna. 9 times out of 10 is not going to work, especially in the Cup Series. So to win these races, being consistent, being close to the front all day, hitting on all the details are important. And I don't think running 5th and winning, there's a big difference in how you approach those things. It's just a matter of did you do your homework perfectly? Were all the little details, did they add up? Were they the difference? Were they not? So I don't feel like we're in a must-win situation. Again, I really liked all 3 of these tracks, still do in this first round that we have. We had a little bit of a stumble, a trip up, if you will, but thankfully the misfortune of some of the other drivers really didn't allow our struggles to really be for us to have much more of a penalty than we did from our struggles Sunday.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any final questions for Tyler? Just double checking here. All right. It seems like that's all the questions we have. A big thank you to Tyler for joining us and to the media who joined us as well.